Us for a Digital World Town Hall meeting. Today is June 16th, 2026, and we're focused on a council meeting as well as a report out for the last week. For those that are not aware, we do have a live audience here with us, and this is Tuesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and we're focused on a report out. So we'll go through all of the advancements this last week, and then any kind of general Q&A. We'll get started with an opening prayer. Today it'll be opened up by Victoria and closed by John. So Victoria, it's all you.
Aloha and mahalo. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for being with us. Thank you for having your Holy Spirit come into this meeting today. Thank you for going before us. Thank you for connecting us, all these beautiful people across these many time zones. Thank you for guiding our words and our actions and helping us to know the direction to go and the timing in which to go it. We are your soldiers. We are here to do your will. And thank you so much, Father, for just connecting us in so many different ways. I bless everyone in this meeting as they come and go, that your grace, mercy, and covering would be on them. Thank you for being with us and guiding us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And thank you for all those others that are here, both physically and digitally, and even visitors that come in the future. We're grateful for the understanding and knowledge that really there's different realms here. You know, we've all lived in this physical realm. Most of us that are on this call were born and there was no digital realm, but we're grateful for the understanding that there's a spiritual realm that can actually help us to understand how to navigate through this opportunity that we get to live in. Like, it is just amazing, but it's nice to recognize that. It's imperative to recognize that. We're also grateful for those that are co-hosts here and continue to just plug in and plug away. For those that may not be aware, this is a private membership association, and some of the things that we'll talk about may be forward-looking. For those that also don't understand what this is all about, this is really about focusing on decentralized systems that combat centralized folks that are really controlling humanity, whether it's technology related, media related, health related, or many other industries. You could talk about insurance, you could talk about oil, you could talk about tons, pharmaceutical, and how that actually goes into governments and how those governments are then controlled, and really how we just give away the right to be who we are. We're human and we're individuals. And as technology advances and digital intelligence advances, this is more important than ever. And decentralized systems can actually enable a lot of the peace and the freedom that can come from that. So we're grateful for those that take the time to understand this. And it's really actually very simple. There's different technologies that layer upon one another that provide identity and many other layers, payments, storage, communications, assets, endorsements. We're going to talk about a couple additional ones that are really starting to materialize, namely what we call the revolver layer, where the future of secured systems can actually communicate with one another. Maybe it's one human to one human, maybe it's one human to a website, maybe it's a human to an app, or maybe it's a bot, or maybe it's actually a robot or an artificial intelligence agent, so to speak. All of these things can actually be proven, and how all that can come together based upon these types of layers. So right now we talk about 10 layers. We'll show you a little bit, a couple advancements in the next couple slides. For those that may not be aware of what all of this is about, you basically get your own keys, and those keys use derived keys to basically manage your identity, and it connects the physical and digital worlds together. It really ties to these keys being the future of keys, where they can be derived, they can be restored, they can be regenerated. It's or rotated. It's absolutely the future of how cryptography or math can actually free humanity. Very, very important. This goals for the 2026 is all around the individual owning themselves, and how that ties to the Life app and to AI, and how we drive awareness and adoption through payments is really the focus. This is actually an additional 2 layers that we've been able to really understand this last couple weeks. and they sit below the identity layer. You can see the identity layer here. And it's this resolution or resolver. So in the DNS world, which is domain name services, which is when you type in an address, www.abc.com, how that resolves to a IP address that has a server that actually inputs data that people can actually see or ingest. A lot of that stuff is going to be changing because the fabric of the internet and applications will be changing as intelligence, digital intelligence, artificial intelligence continue to mature. This last week, Anthropic basically paused because the United States of America said that there was a national security threat on their latest model, which was 5.0, coming off of Opus 4.8. And the reality is this resolution or resolver layer would actually solve a lot of the concerns on how people talk to one another. The problem is a lot of the legacy world, and this is where things are going to get very difficult. A lot of the legacy world is actually built off of old systems that have massive vulnerabilities, and these new Anthropic layers can actually help pinpoint or show what the vulnerabilities are. People may not understand this, but the prior world that we came from was building operating systems for servers, routers, firewalls, intrusion detection systems, content filtering systems, and providing security updates to those. One thing that's really important to understand is, where do these vulnerabilities come from? Why are they there? How are they there? Is it by design? And I would argue that every single system in the world, unless it's built off of what they call a PCB board, which is basically the silicon, the software, the hardware is all purpose built for one use case. Those things don't have a lot of the same vulnerabilities, but anything that actually opens it up, so you've got a CPU, a GPU, an APU, any kind of processing unit that ties to an operating system that ties to what they would call a CMOS or a BIOS, has vulnerabilities, not just at the operating system layer or at the virtual machine layer, but the actual security of how these things communicate is actually broken. And a DNS resolver, which we actually built the ClearPhones, and then on the ClearPhones, we basically put these systems, so to speak. It is actually one of the ways that we start solving it. That was with a technology called ClearGM. And when we really understood it, and back in those days, this was probably 4 years ago, we said, hey, the ClearGM technology with this DID technology or key receipt infrastructure technology is actually going to be a key part of the future. Why? Because it can connect an individual to a site securely. So for instance, if DNS, domain name registration, actually resolves to the wrong website, it can be hacked or spoofed. And a lot of those things can actually easily be done. So there's a technology called Lovable and many other things, Cursor, tons of other ones. Suprabase is what they build off of. And there's just Obsidian's another one. But the point that I'm driving at is it's easy to actually duplicate full-blown websites. I believe that's one of the reasons why Anthropic doesn't have full federated access to say, hey, someone just say, hey, this website of XYZ entity, I want to go rebuild it and do this to it. So you can easily spoof systems. And I believe that's one of the reasons why within the last 72 hours, Anthropic has actually turned off their latest artificial intelligence platform, is because there's massive security issues, not just with spoofing, but accessing. So these layers that I've been telling you about, the CMOS layer, the BIOS layer, even SSL layers, all of these things are not secure, especially when you can actually target a intelligent agent that says, hey, go out and find a vulnerability for this particular company. And whether it's a website, whether it's a server, whether it's a backend, I mean, it's literally absolutely a transparent system that completely will be the future. The problem is it will literally have security issues that will force people to use the types of systems that we're talking about. And that's one of the reasons why we're moving the digital world life stack from 10 layers to 12 layers, is this resolution layer and this node layer, where you can actually have an edge device that has a programmable system that can say, I want a decentralized system, but I want to actually select which decentralized environments I want to tie to or trust my data to, whether I light them up on my own or whether I give them to others. So very, very important and valuable. This last week, there's been a bunch of different systems that have stood up, whether it's around a service, around really managing from the first breath on up to independence, where life can be managed, whether it's health, whether it's identity, whether it's memories, maybe it's videos, maybe it's photos, but services around that, beautiful things. This is a third party that's basically standing this up, as well as other banking-based systems or partners that we're looking to work with, partners of partners. So you take identity and payments for the future based upon this cryptographic system that I just articulated, and you start standing up the ability for individuals to not just trust banks or credit unions or other systems, but they can actually own their own assets cryptographically and then tie into their own systems. There's a whole conversation around that. Maybe I should actually show you an interface on that so you can really, let's go to here, and then we're going to scroll down and kind of zoom in on this. So imagine a system where you can log into one interface and then have multiple other interfaces. So you can see here, this might have, ANZ, BNZ, Westpac, but you have different bank accounts that then tie to assets, that then tie to currencies or other commodities, cryptos, rewards, insurance, etc. But it's all owned by the individual. But banks finally figure out that, hey, they have a particular responsibility primarily around what their core competency is, which is they've been given the opportunity to do fractional bank lending, which they can actually lend out funds. So imagine if you actually issue a smart contract, and from that smart contract, you can then actually build a reputation or transfer assets. I'll give you an example. So I'm going to go to the digital world. I'm going to go ahead and log in here if I'm not already logged in. Let's see what I've got over here. So I'm going to grab a Life app. Any Life app works, by the way. If you haven't used a Life app based upon your jurisdiction or your currency, I'd recommend it. So you just grab your Life app, you scan it, 5-factor authentication, you're automatically in. It's 5 factors that you own, like literally the ability for you to log in. You can log in with your own identity, with other identities. I'll go ahead and come into here. What I want to particularly look at is a new navigation. So you can see over here, navigation is completely updated. It actually follows the mobile device, so the actual phone or tablet type environment. So you'll actually see the similar type categories. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this new category that is called agreements. And so you'll notice inside of here, you can actually build a new agreement, or you can create a new case, etc. But I'm just going to focus in on one of the advancements. Imagine if you could actually take and create different types of agreements. Maybe it's a lease agreement, a partnership, a contractor agreement, employment agreement. It could be, even a non-disclosure type agreement, even simpler. So I'll just grab a lease agreement for this. Notice how you can actually purchase with different assets as well, whether it's native or clear, etc. But you can actually title it. You can go through a process of basically linking these in such a way where you can enter in with multiple parties. So if we jump into this environment, you can see that ABC party and XYZ party engaged it. And the value of this is you can say, hey, for this particular agreement, I want to go ahead and send this asset to this individual, and I want to receive this asset. Let's say you're doing a lease to own. So you can say, or let's just say you're doing a purchase to own. When you make a payment, you can get a percentage in real time. But if you don't make a payment, the system can actually go through and manage that. So that's tying to some of these new types of agreements. That also ties to cases and how, let's say that there's a dispute with party A or party B, etc. And you're using these cryptographic keys to actually sign them. Let's go ahead and come in here. This is actually an old code. This isn't the latest one. So you basically have a claim that can build from one entity to another. So you can see kind of how, let's do this again. So you can see how this will actually use a derived key. So for instance, when I went through the key management and the derived keys earlier, you can see how this is a unique key. So we're actually doing cryptographic identities on top of cryptographic identities that basically bring identity to the future. So it's super important and valuable to be able to know and understand that. With that being said, imagine if someone can actually go through a process and purchase something and the title is recognized within different jurisdictions. For instance, I'm actually using, let's say, Utah Life. I'm using a jurisdiction that actually ties to that and then pulls all of the different laws in their area. For instance, there's actually title laws that were closed this last year that need to be updated, so to speak. But imagine if you can actually now cryptographically hold it, how does that actually get deployed out? And that's really what these systems enable it. But what happens on the reputation side of things? For instance, let's see if I can find reputation. So you can see this is another module as well, how reputation basically breaks down an individual's identity based upon things. Let's see if we can show how it's actually shown. So you can see here how it's measured. This is actually how the different scores or points work. You can link up other different systems to it. You can actually, this is a score. It's not a solid score, but it's growing. So you can see how whether you start businesses or assets or you pay bills or you enter into different agreements, how you can actually start building a reputation. Now, the difference is the individual owns this reputation. This is not like what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac would want in a score like FICO, which then is measured with like TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. This is something where you own your own data. So you can link up your own data and manage your own data cryptographically done. So very valuable, very important. You can link companies to it. You can link assets to it. You can have disputes or hardships, or you can even pull in different credit reports that you currently have and build from those centralized systems off of these other systems. So it's not just an advancement with reputation, but also with agreements. And then also it ties those agreements into actual payments and smart agreements, so to speak. So lots of advancements in that part of the world. And that also directly ties to how banks can actually loan. And then if you actually have, like, let's say an auto loan or a mortgage loan, how you can actually take that and work with a bank to actually get that view of everything that you have. So I'm going to go back and actually make sure that I really turn this light on for you. This interface gives you a view into everything of your life if you wanted to manage it. And you're not just locked into one bank either. You can pull the bank accounts into these systems, but they also can tie into other jurisdictions in the digital world that the individual actually owns and controls. So whether it's assets, so let's say that you actually had a home and a mortgage with this particular bank. You'd be able to say, hey, how much is the payoff? Or how much have I paid on it? Or how much? You can literally click into it. There's another interface that actually shows it better. But let's say you've got a couple cars with the actual bank. You can see that overall, you've paid down a mortgage pretty good. You've got assets that are worth certain things, currencies, equities, commodities, cryptos, rewards, even insurance policies that can basically show up, but working with different banking partners that actually want to issue the home loans or the auto loans and allow their bank accounts to be integrated of this jurisdiction that actually enable rewards and other things. So I hope this is making sense, but the combination of reputation, like how you get credit, the ability to actually use the credit, like to buy a home or a car, the ability to actually have all of this within one system or environment is very powerful and valuable for humanity. I'm going to go through just a lot of other things that we're currently working on. There's a patent portfolio that we're working on. large opportunities, a lot of details, a lot of moving parts, but it looks like we're wrapping that up. There's also different Clear Holdings activities on the IPO front, on raising funds and going through that. It's going to be a couple year process, but there's some very serious things that are going through that process. And then this basically is going through a potential acquisition of some unique things in particular environments, different countries, different types of things that directly tie to this. So for those that are not aware, the digital world has a life protocol that's a technology stack that the Clear companies and lots of others can basically build, but the Clear ecosystems are the first reference case of how this is all being deployed. And there's 7 companies that we've purchased over the years to help build some of those. And, you know, as it continues to grow, Vanuatu has reached out again for continued driving there. And we're working with basically the governments and folks that are representing the governments. And it's a very incestuous ecosystem, wonderful people, but trying to navigate through that to basically get what we started many years ago to actually become a reality. There's also some grant programs that we're currently have targeted, 4 or 5 of them that are recent within the last 30 to 90 days. Yeah, so there's lots of features and functions. You'll see some additions on the Digital Life app. So far, we've updated the Utah Life app, and there's one other. I'm forgetting right now, but there's a couple other Life apps that have completely been upgraded. And then the digital one is actually next. It looks like this today. So if you download it from Apple or from Google or from Clear, it looks like this. In the future, it's actually, there'll be a full new site that'll tie to this. So you'll be able to see a lot more components to it. There'll be some phones and node companions that will basically go together. So how does those layers and stacks run on these different nodes? That'll all be announced. And basically do all of this: identity, wallets, communications, agreements, reputations, vaults, recoveries, based upon particular jurisdictions with their own local laws, and how all that really comes together. So, and then we talked a little bit about the reputation and how that actually ties, but it's for the individual, it's for the organization or the business, and then the assets. So they all kind of tie together. We're working particularly with 2 archetypes that are very important, and that's Utah and Aotearoa. There's some unique things that'll happen within the Switzerland environment as well, but right now it's Utah and New Zealand that we're primarily focused on. The native name is Aotearoa. This is actually the Digital Life 3.0, so it's actually the next version of it, where you'll be able to do a lot more with the actual app than you had historically done with the actual web interface. And you may be able to link things up that may be your unique private things that you would pull into this as well. And then the next big thing is tying that to your own artificial intelligence system, which we've spent literally, I would say, 50% of the week last week working on, where the individual owns their own digital intelligence and their own data and their own stacks and how it all ties together. Very valuable, very important, very key. Yeah, so that's basically that. These are just different interfaces, from circles to permissions to chat to how it all comes together. We talked a little bit about the resolution stuff. For those that were not aware, Alpine Gold has been linked into the system. It is not production based. We actually had some dialogue today around kind of moving to the next production environment. We'll let you know when that's actually done. So you can take real gold, real silver, or gold backs, and you can actually take these things and have digital representations for them and scale it. One of the other things around the payment side of things, you'll notice this is Clear Payments. It's not just doing Visa, MasterCard, ACH, or Diners Club or American Express, but it'll also do digital payments. And it's not just digital payments from the digital world, but it's digital payments within the crypto world. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I'm going to navigate to assets, click on personal assets. I'm going to click on swap, so you can actually see a list of all these different assets. I don't want to type that in. So you can see DETH is another one. So this is Ethereum. Or another one that may be new is here. I'll just scroll down here. This is probably not the right one to do this with. You know what I'll do? I will come to a wallet where I don't have a lot. So this wallet, I don't have a lot. I'm just going to go ahead and say DETH. This is actually Cardano, which has taken like a 75% hit this last 12 months. We actually would love to work with those guys, but we'll continue to see if there's a fit. Doge, Solana, Tron, USDC as DUSDC, USDT as DUSDT, DXRP. I know that was mentioned earlier today. So I'm just going to go ahead and click accept these things, and then I'm going to scan it. And you'll notice that these assets that are down here, so 5-factor authentication, I put my finger on as well. Oh, I didn't do my finger right. There we go. No, maybe I didn't log into the system right. I'm going to log out. What wallet was that in? Do you remember? I'm going to log in. I think it was digital. Go over to assets, wallets, personal. Boom. Oops, I don't want to do that. I actually want to pull these guys in. There we go. Wally, will you ping JB and let him know? Maybe I'm doing something wrong here, but those should, let me, actually, you know what? Maybe I need to do this first.
I'm dragging, so I'll do my best stream.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Just you text me on it. What I'm trying to show them is some of these new assets and how they actually will exchange. Yeah, so those are some of the updates. You know, a lot of third-party movements. There's some documentation that's also new around the different layers, definitions, why the digital world, what's the maturity model around it, how the different entities and people link together, why decentralized identifiers are important, how they work, how you can actually use identity and systems. So it breaks down each layer around communications, around payments. One of the other things that's going to be coming is a social layer. So for those of you that use Clear Community before, we've talked about it. This will be a very big advancement, this Clear Community stuff. And it will be similar to what the most mature platforms out there have, but this time it will be decentralized. For those of you that weren't aware, about 6 or 7 years ago, we went live with it, and within 4 years, we didn't push it, but we had about 7 million folks that were involved indirectly, and we had to literally, because it was centralized, it didn't have the decentralized elements. We knew we'd have to actually start over. So that's what this Life Social platform is actually going to do. So this is actually going to be some of the documentation for it. But anyways, what else can we talk about? That's basically it. So there's a lot of other moving parts. There's a couple different environments from the South Pacific, really, from whether it's New Zealand or whether it's Aotearoa or whether it's Tonga. Those are all environments that are kind of being stood up. I also got a call from a king of a particular kingdom. I won't be specific, but they're also traveling down to one of these and building out some of those things as well. So a lot of the work in the Pacific is continuing to mature. Like I mentioned before, Vanuatu, Tonga here, Aotearoa, and then I should say here, and then New Zealand. So other thoughts, comments, or anybody's feedback on what we reviewed so far? That's basically wraps up the report out of this session. Anybody want to go over any particular type of topic? I know there's probably a lot of things we touched on, but anything stand out or anything you want to dig into?
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
Hello. I just have some suggestions for you and everybody else. It would be an idea, maybe, I don't know if we want to tie it back into the social part of the structure, but maybe we should create something like an ideas stage where the entire community can come together and put their ideas, like not in a box, not an ideas box, but like an ideas stage, and they can submit their ideas into the digital world, just so we can have maybe like a layer of community and understanding about like the sound judgment of what we're building and what it is. Because I feel like we've reached a part where we've come down to the hardware and the engineering part of it, and now we're missing the education part of the whole entire concept.
Totally agree. And probably missing a lot of other things. That's why I think these meetings are valuable, and feedback like just what you provided is imperative. What if we created a roadmap for the digital world around development, and we actually popped it out like with a Kanban chart, and we showed what's currently under development, where the next stages are, and then people can
Yes.
load in ideas and what they want to get into that development stuff.
Yeah, because I feel like we've got like the back end, you know, the investor portal, all these things, that understanding. But where does the psyche come in? Where do we come together and understand what we're actually trying to do as the goal or the solution, so we can actually focus in on the solution that we're trying to solve with our current customers and clients that we have. You know, sometimes when we come together and we group think, we don't often get too far. Maybe we're in the wrong environments. Maybe we don't know how to solve the issue. Maybe we don't know how to problem solve. But I think just having that platform, idea stage, or something where ideas can be vetted within the community, so we can bring people together, and then that way we can also bring other communities together as well, especially with the bridges that are happening now in the crypto community.
Yeah, for instance, we just took the top 10 and built those out. You can build it out with almost any of them. I should actually show you how it works. It's amazing. Like, you can literally do an exchange. Maybe I should do that next, but I want to wrap up your thought before I move to that other one. So you're saying not only community feedback on what's being developed, but what should be developed, and maybe how it's being developed or used. Yeah, we could use.
Maybe just like a simple like submission portal where if our community comes together, then you know, obviously there's other entrepreneurs out there in the world that have a business, or they're trying to solve a particular problem, but just having that sound layer of judgment, I feel like, is important.
Okay, I'm just taking notes here. Okay. What about community voting in general on just different topics? And maybe out of the gate, we have digital intelligence come up with maybe the top 10 topics, and that kind of kicks us off. Does that overlap?
Yeah, we can start there. Yeah. Because I feel like if someone's new and they're listening and they don't understand digital decentralized ledgers and distributed ledgers, they won't know what's really going on.
Okay.
Or what we're trying to do. Yeah, especially people that are new to digital currencies and investing in them or understanding them, and what's the potential of it as well, like when we eventually come together in the future.
You know, it's crazy, and I know this is going to sound limiting on one hand, but I really feel like, cryptocurrencies are just a very small portion of what the digital world is about. It's the core is really around identity. and then enabling the
Yeah.
choice. But I agree with you that, what we do is we basically open it up for everyone, and maybe it gravitates to one topic, but like what you're talking about, like cryptocurrencies is only one layer of many, right? So like if we go and look at, this environment here, sorry, crypto is only one layer of many. You've got insurance, rewards, commodities, equities, currencies, assets. Another way to look at it would probably be in here. So, you've got, this is just one category per se. So that's really good feedback. What I'm taking out of that is develop a roadmap that's external that people can actually vote on and have say on. And then another is launch a type of voting system that may have general questions that people want to dig into and then learn about. And that's where the learning stuff that you talked about can come into play. Does that sound right?
Yes, yeah. And, thinking ahead, maybe, like somewhere where people can submit their ideas about, what could we do in the digital world together, because people have ideas, people have innovations, and with everything else that you're talking about, with the smart contracts, the engineering, all these things can come together.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Brilliant thought. And it's about time. It's a good time for that. So I'll take a task. I know Wally's driving, so I won't throw that in his world, but I'll take a task to pick that up. So
No problem.
I've documented that. Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments or feedback? That was really good, Becca. That's exactly why we hold these things, because sometimes we just have blind spots and we don't think through it. So
I had a comment, Michael, and it's about what Becca had brought up. And Raghu would like to say hello.
Kia ora, Raghu. How are you, buddy?
Well, I mean, the problem with these things is, like, if we don't keep up with it, weekly, we just fall behind. I mean, the amount of work and new features you're adding is just phenomenal.
Yes, this has been a big week. This has been a really big week. You're right. Go ahead. Sorry, Victoria.
No, you're good. So the community spaces and where we're connecting, I think that would be a really good place to structure where we can get that feedback and work on solutions, answers. Is that something we could build into the spaces and communities
Absolutely.
and chat?
We've actually, one of the things that we've done is we've actually built the opposite. If we come into, I'm just going to light up Aotearoa, and I don't know what I'm logged in as, so I don't know if it's going to function. But when we log into these systems, we can actually pull in. This is actually showing the reputation within this environment. But I want to say is it under communication? You can actually see the spaces and the places built into the actual systems based upon the jurisdiction. Are you seeing this? So you can basically pull in a different space and place, and then it links to you cryptographically to your device. So this is literally derived key-based communication based upon the individual or a space that they can basically communicate. Like this meeting that we're having online, we could create a digital world online space, as you know, and you can literally pull open this different environment and jump onto a video call. So, and you can do so much more with this. This is actually where the bots can then start interacting and working with humans. We all become this physical and digital world actually coming together in a very real way, cryptographically secured. So what are we going to say?
I was going to say, so when I first started in there, we have the kingdom layer, we have the digital layer, we have the physical layer. Can we build it in and just do subgroups out of that where people can connect with other people within those groups?
Yeah, you absolutely can. It's many to many, and there's no limitation, and it's literally open for all. So,
well, my concern would be is that people would get lost, and like what you have on Facebook, for example, you know, you have a lot of groups that have the same category, but and I'll just give an example, Republican Party, you know, you have Republican Party, West Side, East Side, Hawaii, Oahu, Honolulu, Kauai, you know, but if we keep it focused and if we can funnel it, we won't have repetitive spaces where people are getting lost. I think a lot of people are looking for their people to connect, but by getting that focused in those different genres, so to speak,
Larger categories.
yeah, we can kind of funnel it down to the more specific questions like Becca's focusing on, you know,
That's
where we can actually
where
identify those.
that's where the spaces and places come in. So if you create a space that's
Yeah.
a Republican Party, and then you can create places that are basically east side, west side, north side, whatever. Those are just examples, but then you can literally
Yeah, so it's going to get it to where it funnels down so people aren't creating more spaces, but they're like the same space.
yeah.
Keep the confusion out of it, you know?
Yeah, and I think that comes back to what Becca was talking about, and you talk about, and many others, including Danielle. We need education on how to do it. The goal is to make it so brain dead easy that it's just like Gmail. Like I remember back in the day, 2005 to 2007, I went over to Mountain View many times, and we helped build up. I was in the MSP world, and Google wanted to get into that world because we deployed Exchange servers. And so Google wanted to learn, how does this actually work? And, you know, if I would have understood what was happening then, I probably would have went about things differently. But basically, we had to build Gmail in such a way that you didn't need training. It was just very intuitive. And a lot of people, I don't know if you remember the shift, but when you went away from an Outlook mailbox to a Google mailbox, they nest the messages in a certain way, primarily for search capabilities. But a similar type user experience has to be deployed within this environment. So it's just second nature. And I think the more that we do it and the more we get feedback loops, just like what we're talking about here, testing and just simplicity, then we can actually start rolling it out to other environments. And that's, you know, that's really what this is all about, is how do we actually get adoption and utilization of these systems now that they're actually built and others can actually build on them. So does that make sense?
It really does. And I think Becca, I don't know if you have feedback on that. I know Becca and I are good at communications and giving that feedback and directing that feedback. If maybe that's something the Digital World team wants to work on, or if you have a structure that would help with that. Because really, I mean, for the normies of us out in the world, you know, we have to make it stupid easy. And I'm not, you know, condescending or anything, but it takes a lot.
She's
And just-
spending time with us old fogies. She is learning how simple they have to keep things for us. I get lost. I mean, it just sounds absolutely fascinating. I'm not sure how to break through to the other side. So she keeps saying that it's going to be very easy, and I'm looking forward to that. But I've always been sitting a little bit on the sidelines in complete fascination. So I'm a fan. I'm just not a user yet.
And I think the spaces and the places is a good place to get that engagement.
I like that. Yeah, that was a good idea.
And
The way to explain it.
yeah, I think that would be a great place to get engagement on the platform and get it adopted by other people and engaging and getting a digital ID. And it's a safe digital ID, and them understanding the difference between it being, you know, what's the difference between an Apple ID and a Clear ID, you know? Oh, it's you own your own data versus Apple owns your data and your pictures and everything.
Well, that sounds like a commercial to me. That's absolutely terrific.
Well,
That answer is a commercial.
one of the unique things that are happening is, and I think there needs to be a lot more game film on this, but Apple has basically announced that they're going to take your contacts, your calendar, your mail, even your messages, your photos, and basically allow your own AI to manage it. The problem is it's not going to be your own AI. And that's one of the reasons why we're working so hard on the digital intelligence side of things to get it so that the individual can completely own it. That's also what these
You're going AI now, huh?
well, we're calling it digital AI, where the individual owns their own identity in the digital world and their own assets and data. Because digital intelligence or any kind of superficial artificial intelligence is here to stay, period. And it must be embraced in such a way where the future can actually build from it. And there's a lot that we're doing. Some of those acquisitions and patents and things all directly tie to it. And we see the digital world as that organization that can actually help steward or create a responsible deployment of digital intelligence where the individual and humans truly are the ones that actually manage it, which has really been the big concern for humanity. And a lot of it has to come back to how these layers work with this resolver layer and true DIDs, did to did communication, did to bot. So an individual to a bot, an individual to a website to an agent, all of these different, or a website to a website, or a website to an app. All of these things have to communicate at a whole nother layer. It's not at what the world would call at the networking layer. Originally, it was IPX, actually out of Novell, right here out of Utah. Then Microsoft jacked it and it's called TCP/IP, or all people also know it as IP. Those protocols are not just one layer. There's multiple layers inside of it. If you look at the Cisco ISO standards, that's how a lot of these different layers really come about. But what I'm trying to articulate is this layered experience, or this stack, is really important when it comes to the security around digital intelligence and how it can actually be rolled out. Like, knowledge is the way the internet works is all gonna change. And a perfect example is what's happened this last week when, the next version of Claude basically gets rolled out, and the government 3 days later says you cannot let anyone that's not an American access this. And so the company Anthropic shuts 100% of it down. I'm telling you, this is going to change how humanity communicates. And the digital world, as most of you know, we've been working feverishly on this for a very long time to make it become a reality, so to speak. So I'm going to stop talking. Any other thoughts or comments?
Yeah, just as so I think I made the ballot for governor.
Hey, congratulations. I didn't know that,
already,
but congratulations.
Yeah. So I seem to be getting a little bit more response this time around from the community, and I think I might be able to get some traction with the Indian community. So I'm being overrun by the lack of, I just don't have the customer management. So do you have something like that for people that,
platform?
Yeah, that would, so I'm part of the platform, but I'd be able to communicate with people that aren't part of the platform? As a campaign back office kind of thing, or is it an all or nothing? Like, everyone that I'd be working with would have to plug in to the platform in order to be able to interface.
You could, there's other governors and candidates that we're working with that actually use the Life app as a way to be able to enable the people to actually govern themselves, like London. Like, there's some individuals there, and they're actually rolling this out as their platform. Now, I think what you're looking to do is to get enough votes to be able to be in a place to be able to do it. Now, that's a CRM system, or a customer relationship management system.
CRM.
And the digital,
is your platform a CRM?
The digital world doesn't run a CRM. It wouldn't be difficult. What we're building out with AI is basically the ability to say, hey, we want to take this type of identity system and this type of payment system, and we want to roll it out to the world. So we actually want the world to have systems that can be built in real time. So for instance, we could build a CRM within a day and deploy it, but that's not, You know, it's crazy beautiful, but that's not really what, in my opinion, you need. What you need is the ability for people to actually be able to, and everyone to be able to own their own identity and own their own communication. And if they want to actually, for instance, if they go to a store and they buy something, they can get rewards at the same time and open up communication. And the vendor, instead of marketing through a Facebook or a Google and paying Facebook and Google, and the individual's identity is disclosed or linked up and sold, the individual can basically get paid directly instead of Facebook and Google. And they can say, you know what, I'll take that discount, or I'll take that value, or I'll let you market to me, and I'll let you pay me, because instead of paying some nebulous third party, you're actually going directly to that individual. And the Life app has that capability built in it today. Literally, I mean, what I was just showing you within this interface is exactly it. So you can see people within a particular realm or jurisdiction. So this is the digital world. Let's say we want to look at people within a different environment. Let's say this is just a different.
Is there an off ramp we can use? Like for in Regu's case, you have candidates and they have emails, and if somebody wants to donate to Regu and he's using the platform for donations, can we send an email to them and say, oh, you want to donate? Here's how to connect with me and how to donate, and then them, bless you, their digital ID, and be able to onboard through the system and connect with them that way. I mean, for me, that's giving them the information for the digital world, or having them create a digital ID, and then having them, load funds, right, and then donate to him.
Well, let me put it this way. One of the single biggest markets is the election season. I mean, I think they're spending multiple billions now for the presidential. One of the ones that was under a big contest, I believe, was in tens of millions of dollars. It was the most expensive. So, however you need to organize yourself in order to tap into that. If you wanted to use me as a showcase of how that would work for a candidate, I'd be ecstatic to do that. But what happens is they get a lot of money in a real short time, and they need something really big and effective. So if you had your, the privacy and the ownership as a sort of a premium service, but like you said, you could put together, a customer management system together in a day. That's actually going to be the single most. It's not profitable. It's just massive amounts of money if you can show effectively. Everything starts at $1 million, for the mid-size candidates, millions for large, and tens of thousands for the small. So just in terms of, if you're looking for, revenue source, this is one of the biggest. And so in my case, as an example, I'm leading with, we want to pull the farmers and restaurants together to demand 1% of the state budget for farmers. 25 billion, 1% is 250 million. So to be able to interface in whatever the most simple and effective way is for farmers who are anti-technology, and restaurants that are just too busy but they'll spend the money for it. So I've been able to interface. So it's really funny what the response is, how dramatic it is. People are just pissed that they go for spending 1% of farmers, and that's the public in addition to them. So if you had something that would allow me to coordinate them, I mean, this is a pretty simple campaign in terms of gathering a lot of public.
So what you're going to see are a lot of these new little types of scan things that are happening. So you can kind of see this scan to identify or pay, or you can literally identify without even giving someone your name. You can actually go and get a drink without giving them your age. You can provide a feedback or rewards. These types of systems you're going to start seeing a lot more of. And what it is a combination of the Life app with this scanning capability that can actually process those payments. But a lot of it is actually changing out the systems. As you know, Raghu, it's all around people vote with what they actually buy, right? And so if you change the buying experience and you pull Visa and MasterCard out of the equation and people can actually connect together, they can share together, they can communicate together, they can market together, they can pay together at zero fees, zero delays, and no government structure. If you're running on a platform like that, then not only are you activating people that would donate to you, but you're actually talking to people and telling them about really these future apps that will actually free them. And I know a lot of this may be confusing to you, but it really is the right way to communicate with them. Like, as a matter of fact, if you used Victoria to roll out this communication platform, she already has enough to give you, she can give you a better CRM than any kind of politician CRM. As a matter of fact, this isn't the first. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just asking her if she thinks this is an actual CRM that she could put together for me.
Yeah, what we were talking about earlier, where there's spaces and places and you can organize them, and she nails that totally. Like,
I like that. I like that. I was like, okay, that makes so. Yeah, I just of course it's I'm sort of a single task guy, so like once my brain is there, I'm sure I'll be able to.
No, invest the time to understand this. You take this Hawaiian Life app, and literally, what we could do is, if you're really going to be serious about this, we could prioritize this and upgrade it to the latest system that has communication built into it. And so you would let them download Hawaiian Life, Raghu, that's your platform, and literally you're communicating with them directly, real time. They could also donate to you real time, like from a credit card or from a different type of asset. Like,
so I can plug in, but do they have to as well?
Yeah.
Or is it in? So they're going to have to get that app and do the whole process.
They would create a digital ID and load funds and then be able to donate.
But hold on, let's be really, Victoria, we got to be super specific here.
Yeah.
They're not just creating a digital ID like the central ID, like the nightmare that society is basically pushing people to. They're creating a digital ID that is decentralized and private to them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense to me.
Very important.
And I get that, and that's part of the academy, right? Is that we're communicating how people create a safe digital ID, and that this platform provides that. And I think Raghu, I mean, he's onto something with the whole candidate, and running, and
People
that
love
if he uses the platform, he can use that platform to run his campaign on and get and receive donations or communicate with, people who are following him. And I really feel like the communication part of it, nailing that, especially at this time in our history, like it feels like it's time.
Totally agree. Absolutely.
I will know in the next 3 to 5 days if we get the Indians jumping aboard. If they do, we will have turbocharged. And so if you can set this up so it looks impressive to them, that might help close things with them. But I'm starting to get some little nibbles. But Indians are pretty understated. So anyway, I'll know in the next 2 to 4 days.
Well,
if it looks like to take off, I'll let you know.
I look forward to seeing if that's actually materializing. The hard part is most folks don't understand technology enough to know what is centralized versus decentralized. This is something that came out just yesterday, which is the Prime Minister over there in the UK says that they clarify that adults will be able to use social media. So they're going to lock social media down by verifying their identities with digital ID, facial recognition, passports, and credit cards. Like, literally, that is complete centralization. The guy that's actually running against him, his name is Russell Brand, is actually using the same type of system that I'm telling you about. What is it called?
Russell Brand jumped in. Okay.
Yeah. So this is instead of the Kingdom of Hawaii, you got the Kingdom of UK. I should just say United Kingdom. But this is actually their system. And this is what Russell's running on. And the Life app that ties over to their world You know, you log in the same type of way. You can have assets.
He's using your platform?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's using your platform.
Yours? Okay, cool. I wasn't aware
Oh,
of that.
congratulations.
Awesome.
So you have your first politician running his campaign off of your platform.
Yeah. You know what the campaign is?
What?
I may be your governor, but I'm not going to govern you. You're going to govern yourself. Use this Life app to do it.
Self-governing.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to. These keys and this technology is really just math, but the math can truly set us free. And, you know, yeah. Yeah. If you look at last week's photos, you'll actually see that he's in the middle of a lot of it. This is actually this week's photos. Some unique things around data and glass. These are some folks that are actually in the AI world. Crazy, beautiful stuff. This actually, you'd be proud of me, Raghu. Gardening, finally starting to figure out the gardening stuff. So lots of fun stuff.
Well,
Go ahead.
I really love your layouts. They're really crisp and clean. So your layouts are king, man. I really love that you have such an eye for aesthetics there.
What are you talking photos? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean the layouts of your sites, the way you lay them out.
Oh, yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Well,
Yeah,
Kingdom of Hawaii was one of the
Kingdom
first
Navigate.
ones. We can actually update the Kingdom of Hawaii. It's 2 versions old, but this is actually Russell and who's that? Tucker, and he's actually running for governor. So this is actually me, and this is a guy named Mickey who actually has done some really good documentaries. He's actually working on one. This was in Florida a couple weeks ago. So yeah, this is actually
Was that
him.
you with him?
Yeah, that was me with Russell Brand. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
How
so-
cool.
But he's actually the one that's running for governor of London against this guy that is actually centrally controlling folks. This is actually him with a group of folks. Amazing environment. You know, just fun people. He's a bubble off center, but I really think that he's sincere about helping humanity, like in a very, very positive way. So even though, you know, he comes out and says, hey, there's things that have happened, and, you know, I won't even go into that. But
So is this just an extension of what you have, or are you actually organizing this for him to be able to use this as the platform?
he actually
as
he
a
actually picked it up.
platform.
He was made aware of this, and he was like, this is actually how you give it back to the people. But the key is he took the time to understand the technology and actually made it as a part of his campaign to actually give it back. You know, a new layer for London, to the people to owned by the people who live in it. Because there's some real realities over there that they're dealing with that we're not even dealing with here in America or even in the Kingdom of Hawaii.
Yeah, they're a year ahead of the lockdown of us.
Yeah, they are. I mean, if you don't get a digital ID, you can't work. And now they're saying if you don't get a digital ID, you can't get online. They're going to lock it all down. And the same way they're going to lock that down is the same way that I'm telling you, through these layers, we can actually have a resolver layer that actually solves it with DIDs. So it's in the browser, it's in the app, it's with the individual, but it's a whole new way for communication to actually happen. And this actually has the updated version of the Life app. So we would need to update the Kingdom of Hawaii Life app. So this one that's here, whoa, where'd I go with it? It's on Apple. I don't know where Apple.
So let me ask you this: do you think it's something of a standardized template for candidates?
Yeah.
We would have to build it out, wouldn't we?
Well, they have to market to the people. They have to govern the people and really give the government back to the people. So the people are governing them themselves. And then they've got to get donations along the way. This is a way to be able to get your donations. And it's a way to be able, you as a politician need to track who is donating to you. But the people don't want to donate to you because they don't want to be public about it either. So with this technology, you can actually comply with both of it. One, it's a transaction that is public. I'm going to go to this Explorer. You can see every transaction. 3 minutes ago, someone actually bought silver. You can see it right here. You can dig into it. And you as a politician can actually have a complete list. Remember DeSenta or whatever his name was? He went to jail because he actually either contributed or didn't contribute or something around donation and he didn't track it. So
Yeah.
Whoa.
the point is this can cryptographically track the payments. And if you had to rebuild it, you technically could, especially if you linked their contacts and the private key or public key to your actual environment. So it's really,
You're an accounting software that just happens to offer privacy.
yeah. And it's privacy by choice. So it's a public transaction. So everyone in the world can see it, but people can choose to be private, kind of like how Monero works or Zcash, etc. So, but in this environment, the keys are owned by the individual, not a centralized system like Zcash or zero knowledge proof systems in that particular deployment do, because you don't have control. For instance, how do we really know there's only 21 million Bitcoin that are ever going to be created? And what if that one thing was violated? What would happen to Bitcoin? That's basically happened to Zcash over the last 2 weeks. So this system that I'm telling you about with the ability to actually have these layers will literally change all of that. So,
Well, in my case, as a candidate, the biggest issue is how user-friendly do the end users that are interested feel that it is, versus how much education is going to be involved. And so that's where you get into that 2 or 3 tier thing where it's sort of just sort of incidental. Here's my name, here's my email address, they're in. And then we can say, here's our next level of, membership, what do you call it? Features, the VIP room. And then there's the business class. And then that's where they can do all the transactions. And so you have this tiered membership that they were, and so the thing is once people know that it's a VIP, they'll put in the extra time. But for that initial thing, it just needs something that's just really simple. Here's my name, here's my email address, here's my, and then they're in. Once they're in, then we can say, well, by the way, would you like this? We can accept the transactions. If you want the whole privacy, we have a special feature that will guarantee your privacy. This is our VIP.
literally,
service.
Raghu, they could download the Hawaiian Life app. They could put in a credit card and direct it right to you.
Yep. You think it's going to be that simple?
It is that simple.
So then let's give it a try and see how well that translates on, in real time with real people on the run. I mean, I'm on board if it doesn't confuse.
Raghu, congratulations
I'm
on the run for governor. I think that's amazing, and I've always just bowed down to you because you're willing to fight that political battle. I personally don't ever deal with it. As you know, it's probably a big blind side to me as well. But maybe the tides will turn. But here in Utah, I'm really grateful and happy with the progress that they're making without having to make a crazy stink about things, because they're listening, they're engaging. As a matter of fact, here in the next,
you're a star over there. They recognize who you are, so that's really nice for them.
No,
And it's everybody
no,
else's loss that they don't.
just like everybody. It's like everybody else, but it's wonderful to know that you're in that governor's race, and next.
Well, we can introduce all the things that we talked about, so it has context as a candidate. So the mortgage, the Tesla's million-mile warranty, to leverage debt reduction.
Speaking of that mortgage, we should talk about that and the mortgage system that's built into the banking stuff that I just went through. I don't know if you were earlier in the meeting.
You
but
mean now or at some other time?
No, not in some other time. I think we need to go to other questions here in this meeting, but we should definitely talk about that. So other thoughts, comments, feedback, observations, concerns, ridicule, criticism, anything. Just now's the time.
All right. Hello, this is Sean.
Hi, Sean. Welcome.
Hey, I know we talked about the tech a bit, but you said there are 2 other layers you've added.
Yeah. So you basically have this node layer and this resolution layer. These are 2 layers that are important underneath the identity layer, because it's actually what rolls out the witnesses, the watchers, the validators, the ability for systems to actually run, whether it's communications or storage, etc. By the way, for those that haven't seen one of these, I'll show you real fast. This here is actually One of the companies that we bought built this technology, patented this technology, and then we opened the patent up. This is basically a storage device. And we believe not only can this do hubs, routers, firewall switches, server, intrusion detection, content filtering, but it can also do things around file serving and storage that basically enable.
Yeah.
Oh, the audience online can't see it. Here, I'll go ahead and, sorry. There you go. There you go. So now you should be able to see that. So this is actually a modular device. We've been running, actually my house has been running on this with ClearOS Server for, probably 4 or 5 years. But the goal is to take these to actually build the ability to run local AI that ties to decentralized storage that enables the watchers, the witnesses, the validators, all the different technologies that run the digital world life stack in that node layer. And so one of the things we're doing is actually working with, I won't name the companies, but we're replacing some of the chips inside of here. And it's basically a full system. Like this is an x86 based system. So it can actually run, like if you saw what happened with AMD, actually, I think they just announced it over the last 48 hours, but it's basically a similar device as to what they just announced. For those that are not aware, we actually launched, I'm going to go HPE. AMD and ClearOS Server. So you can kind of see here, this is actually an AMD system running ClearOS Server on it. You can see all the different servers from Hewlett Packard Enterprise, which is the #1 server manufacturer in the world. And they actually pre-installed on Gen 9 and Gen 10 servers ClearOS Server. So you can see the different editions, but very beautiful opportunity to build. And this was on x86 based systems with AMD, who just announced I would say it's a competitive comparison to what NVIDIA is doing. But what I can tell you is we're looking at both NVIDIA as well as AMD to put that into these devices and actually build that at the edge for nodes to go into homes or businesses and really disrupt the future. And so that's that layer that I was telling you about is really the resolution layer and the node layer underneath the identity layer. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, lots of parts and pieces. It's been a good week. We've accomplished a lot, and I think Becca's feedback earlier is really, it needs some action behind it. The ability to vote, the ability to have some transparency into the roadmap. We can go ahead and do that. I think it's probably time to get mature and go ahead and do that. So we'll take an action item there, Becca. Thank you for the guidance. Any other thoughts or comments?
I can help with that as well. Next week, I have something exciting happening with 10 other countries that I'm doing in a similar way. So I can definitely help with integration of that.
That's awesome. I don't know what it is you're talking about, but it sounds great.
And I'm very excited. It's a similar concept, but it's just focusing on a specific solution that I'm personally trying to solve myself. Yeah, I can definitely help with
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? Any feedback, criticism, anything? Anybody want to wrap us up with a word of prayer? Okay, we'll go ahead and convene for today. We'll see you next week. And by the way, we did hold a meeting last week. It was just an impromptu, we didn't go live. It was my birthday. And so I was actually heading off fishing. And so I apologize for not streaming that live. I think we've missed about 5 of them in the last 5 years or so. But yeah, if anybody doesn't want to wrap us up with a word of prayer, we'll go ahead and reconvene next week and wrap this meeting up and adjourn. So anybody want to wrap us up?
I can close this up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Lord Almighty, thank you for all the help you're giving everyone in their endeavors this week. It really seems like you're giving both the team and with Michael and all the others attending tonight a lot of help. So thank you. And please continue to help them as they improve life down here and further your kingdom. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I love that. Improve life down here. That's exactly right. Thank you so much for your time. And Sean, it's nice to have you. I know we haven't spent a lot of time together, but it's wonderful to have you and grateful to have you here. So we'll see everybody next week. Much love.